Hi, my name is Alex with ATech Tech Tutorials, and today I'm going to be showing you one little cool trick. It's called Insights. You might have seen it in your sprint and in your backlog, and I'm going to show you what it does and how you can use it to maximize your efficiency when planning and running your sprints. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, drop a like if you get value, and if you have any questions about anything that I cover in the video, let me know in the comment section below. Let's jump into Jira. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go into a company managed software project, and preferably one that you know actually has an active sprint. This is not going to work if you're in a Kanban board, so you're going to want to make sure that your board type is of the type Scrum so that you can really get the benefit here. Now we're going to be looking at two different places, and so pay attention because the interfaces, while they say the same name, they're going to display you different data. So you want to make sure you're paying attention because it's going to look different and depending on where I'm at. So watch which location I'm in because there's going to be one for the backlog and one for the active sprint. So if yours looks a little bit different, make sure you're in the right section, otherwise you're going to be a little bit confused. So let's start with the backlog. So in the backlog view, when you're planning your sprint, a great place for you to come and look at is this insight. And this is really the topic of the video here. And so as you're planning your sprint, as you're dragging things from your backlog into your sprint, as you're assigning story points and whatnot, one of the things that you can do, and this is going to be like in real time, so you don't have to wait till the end or at the beginning or whatever, you can just, whenever you want, you can click on this insights here, and this little pop-up will show up on the right side, and it's going to give you 2 points of reference, 2 insightful things that I think will help you understand what's going on in your sprint so that you as a Scrum Master or whoever you are that's helping plan this sprint can have a little bit more insight as to what the heck is happening. So the first thing is your sprint commitment. And so what does sprint commitment mean? And so sprint commitment basically means is as you're putting story points into your stories and you're assigning points there, you're essentially, there's a capacity for your entire team, okay? And based on your team's velocity, which is basically the capacity from the last 3 sprints, but not just the capacity of the last 3 sprints, but their actual realized what they actually were able to accomplish, how many stories they were actually able to finish, and the points that they were able to cure, based on that information. And so thankfully you don't have to worry about how to calculate it because Jira's doing all the calculations for you. All you got to know is that based on all of that stuff, Jira's calculating some stuff behind the scenes for you. And it's going to tell you over here. And so it's going to tell you, see this little gray dotted line, it's going to tell you based on your team's raw performance from the last few sprints, and based on today, right now, how many points you're already planning into your sprint, this is where we are on what I like to call the Goldilocks scale. So this is going to tell you if you're just right, which means the number of points that you've allocated so far to the sprint is pretty much on par with your previous team's performance. So you're going to be typically A-okay. Now, it'll also tell you if you're too hot, as in you have way too many points compared to what you've previously been able to accomplish. So unless you have new resources, an extended timeline, or some super easy challenge you're trying to tackle, it's usually a red flag. You don't want to be over, right? And so it'll actually tell you how many points you're over based on your commitment. So at this point we have 13 points, and Jira's telling me, hey man, look at this. Based on your last 3 sprints, you are 5 to 7 points over because your average has been 5.6 points. And so now you're planning 13, you're a little bit over. And vice versa, if you're under, if you basically would only have, let me get rid of this 8 here. And so if you only had like, I don't know, let's move this 5 to a 1, that way we're drastically lower. If you have something super low and your boards are basically reflecting, and so if you're drastically under planned, Jira's also going to tell you, hey buddy, you are way under. You're under your target by however many points from that average. And so this little view here is going to really help you tune in on your sprints to make sure that whatever points you're allocating for your sprint, it's consistent, which is consistent is better than perfect. And this should help you and your team basically keep an eye on that overall team performance. The next thing here that we're going to talk about is the issue type breakdown. Now this one's cool. This one's going to help us understand, based on all the different issues that are coming into our sprint, what type of issues are we solving? And this conversation is great because sometimes you're going to be working on like technical debt, sometimes you're going to be working on new features, and sometimes you're just going to be fixing bugs. And so your sprint should usually be some good balance, a healthy balance of fighting technical debt, addressing bugs, and also delivering all new values to your customers in the form of features. And so you want to keep these three in check. But sometimes when you have a rather large team, maybe even like 10 people, and let's say that each of those have maybe 7 or 8 tasks, that's like 80 items in your sprint. And so it can be kind of overwhelming to look through 80 items and try to get a gauge for what is my team working on and what's the breakdown of the different types of work. And so this issue type breakdown will help you understand, okay, so these are how many stories I have, which is 50% of my sprint is stories, another 25% are bugs, and then the last 25% are like technical debt. And so you can help really get a good visual as to what's happening here. You can compress these so you don't see them, but just some itty bitty little pieces of insight to just help you plan that sprint ever so better. Now, the next area is, that's just in the backlog. We're going to switch on over to the active sprint. So once you're actually in a running active sprint and your team's executing and you're doing your daily scrums and all that great stuff, you're also going to have an insight button on the sprint board. And this one's cool because it's going to show you different sets of information, a different set of insight. And so when we expand this one, we're going to see 3 cool things here. One is sprint progress. So this is going to tell us, based on the items that are in our sprint right now, how much are we completed. You can see that this is telling us that we're 0% done, 0% in progress, and 100% not started. And so as we update these things and we move things across, and I do believe we want to have points on these for them to actually reflect, I can hit refresh, and you can see how we start essentially updating this thing, and it's done in real time. If I move this back, it should drop back to 50% or 100% in progress. And it definitely looks like the points are very key here, because even if I move something to done, you're not getting points until, or I should say, you're not getting credits until you ensure that each of your items actually have a story point. And so if I move this and I hit refresh, you'll see that I'm now more appropriately 83% done, because based on 2 stories that I have, one of them is done and one's in progress. These 2 aren't getting credit because they don't have points. So if there was ever a reason for you and your team to start experimenting and using and utilizing story points, this would be probably my favorite reason, because you're going to get this insight here to really understand how is your team performing based on the actual sprint progress. So that one's cool. The next one that we get is this sprint burndown. So this is basically going to be a shortcut to the actual report, because there are reports in the report section for your burndown, but you got to click in it and you got to go into it, and it's just a couple more clicks. But when you're in the sprint already, you can also just immediately see what's going on and how you're burning down. And it's telling you if you're on track or if you're not on track. And so you get a lot of just immediate information in this screen that is going to be very valuable to just kind of help keep you and your team on track and accountable. And then the last thing, if you're using epics, I know I usually tell my teams that I work with where Agile doesn't really value epics, but Jira does. And here's yet another reason of where Atlassian is really putting a strong value in your epics. You can start seeing the decomposition and the overall progress of how your epics are trending based on the work that is in your sprint. So you can see that for this epic of install tub, I have 1 story, which is this forget something else again. That one's done. So that epic relative to this sprint is 100% done, versus my toilet one is 0% done, but you can see that I'm in progress. And now if I were to add a point to this bug here, and maybe I throw in a 13 on this one, you'll notice that it should pull it in. When I hit refresh here, it should pull in now my install vanity item, and you can see that it's here, and it's all gray because I haven't started it. But the second I move it to in progress, and I hit refresh on this one, you'll see that that we are now in progress on that one, 100% done on the story, and 0% done on the other epics. You'll also notice that we have a heads up because I have increased scope. I have added scope. The second I added story points, I shot that graph up, and now Jira's telling me, hey, you might want to look at this because you got 0 points down and 14 more to go, and it's not looking pretty. So anyways, that is insights in the backlog and in the active sprints. I hope you enjoyed it. I find these to be very beneficial. If you do too, let me know in the comment section below. And most importantly, if you haven't subscribed, you're watching this video, you're one of like the 4,000 or 5,000 people that are watching my videos but not hit subscribe, hit the subscribe button because it really does help. And I appreciate you. Drop a like if you got value out of this video. Talk to me in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.